It was a 1-minute dinner.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to Real Talk Chronicles. I am Bill. No, I'm just kidding. People say we look alike, and I've been rocking this
Who
baseball
said
cap
that?
for about a week. I don't know. Where'd
Who
you
said
think,
that?
Rich? Am I still
I don't.
Tony, or can I
You're
pass for
still
Bill?
Tony. You're still Tony.
Yeah, Kev. Rich doesn't call me Malika. He calls me Tony, and I'm all for it.
Just so you know, Kevin, I'm talking about Tony Braxton.
I had no idea who you were talking about, but that's
Do you still know who I'm talking about?
yes.
Okay.
I think that's a nice compliment. So thank you.
It is.
Cool. So I believe Ty is going to hop on. Bill will be in here in just a second, but I wanted to go ahead and get started. It's good to see you guys. How have you been?
Been well. Been well.
Good.
Not a bad day out today. Yeah.
Every day's a good day, as long as you're here to see it.
Absolutely. It's a wonderful day. It is. It is.
What are your two C's there, Rich?
Chance and a choice.
Chance and a choice.
You get the chance when God wakes you up, and then you got a choice to do it your way or his way.
That's so true. It's I hear your partner in crime coming in now. I say that all the time. I say, everyone has a choice, no matter what the topic is. Everyone has a choice. A lot of people make the wrong choice, but it is what it is.
Well, that's the gift that God gives you. You know, you have a chance to choose whatever you want to do, but don't blame him when it goes south.
Mm-hmm.
And say, oh, if there was a God, then why would he let this happen? No, he gave you a gift. It's called a choice.
Mm-hmm.
You chose to do it. You screwed it up, and he's also giving you a choice to fix it.
Right, right. It's true. I think, I don't know. I look at this news stories and I'm like, what were they thinking? And then I have to remind myself they didn't think. You see some of this crap out here and it's like there's no way they took an extra minute and paused before they, attacked that person or, stole something. They didn't think about the consequences. And heck, it's cameras everywhere. Everywhere. There's a video, just like with you guys. Bill shares a lot of the videos with me as well. And did you see the one in the subway? I think it was in Washington Heights that floated around the other day where the girl was like, she had the black kid gripped up by his jacket. Did you see that one?
No.
No, I didn't see that one.
Yeah, she was walking through the subway. I mean, people everywhere. I'm pretty sure it was on like 181st Street, I believe. A bunch of kids on the platform, and this girl is just like grabbing this kid and just pulling him through the crowd, pulling him through, and you could tell it was against his will. He didn't want to be dragged, obviously. And next thing you know, she just starts swinging on him. She started swinging on him. Her friend started, and I read the comments like I always do. And someone said that, the guy's autistic. We don't know what happened prior, but it was a huge problem. Very sad to see. Very sad. This was, I want to say, Monday. I saw this. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say it was a parent dragging the kid,
Right.
dragging the kid,
Right.
and beating him.
I have that video if you want to watch it.
Oh
I got
yeah.
one too. It's with me in it. Me and my mom.
Seriously, I don't have children, but I can only imagine if that was my son. Man, I'd have
Do you
sought
have
that
Do you have
girl
brothers and
apart.
sisters? Do you have brothers and sisters?
I do not. I'm the only child.
What?
Yes, I am.
So is
Yeah.
Bill, right?
Yeah. So is Bill.
What was that? A prerequisite for you guys to get together
Exactly.
to be
You know
only
how people
children?
have like their little checklist for dating? I don't
Yeah.
know. I didn't have a checklist, but maybe I did have a checklist. But yeah, that wasn't on it.
It's something in common, right? That's part of dating, right? You have some shared things in life
Hmm.
that just happen to be yours.
Man, I got 11, well, had 11 brothers and sisters. I lost one brother, but it was 11 of us.
I can't even imagine sharing a bathroom with all those people.
Well, actually, I have 11 brothers and sisters on my father's side. My father was a mess, boy. Yeah.
So how were you able to get a word in edgewise? Was this why you're?
There's a lot we could say to that, right?
No, my father had children by 4 different women.
Very active. That's the safest thing I could say to that. It's very active.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you something. When I was working in the public school system, there was one of my students. She was a Dominican girl. She said her father had 50 kids. 50. And she was the only daughter.
I cannot.
I found it hard to believe, but when I talked to some people from Dominican Republic, they said they believe that.
Yeah, even if she's
there's no television, nobody worked. I mean,
no television.
What's going on?
Get a book.
50.
Take a hike.
Right, take a hike. My gosh.
And now I know it wasn't from the same woman.
I can't even imagine. I can't.
Well, when I was a kid, there were always big families. I'll be 63 in July. And I was used to seeing families that had double-digit numbers, in their families, So that was really common years ago. And now, I mean, it's a stretch to find somebody with 3 or 4 kids, But most of the people that I know, they only have 1, 2 kids. 3 is a stretch.
Yeah. If you grew up and you became you're middle class, it's very rare. Right? It's kind of new immigrants. Yep. And that it goes back to my mother's got 7 brothers and sisters, and that all made sense back then. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, way back, people had a lot of kids so they can help out. Especially if you're living on a farm or something like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of kids hope their sons so they could do this work.
That's true, because I didn't have anybody to share the chores with. It was just me. I'm going to add this video to the stream, Kevin.
Yeah, I've only watched seconds of it.
Right.
What are we about to see?
This is the video Malika was just talking about.
Subway.
Of course, now it 2G'd me. This is how life works. This is
always.
I'm going to pull this out, kill everything else on my screen, and try this again. Yeah, this is life.
Put your hands on
Every time I look at that, something runs through me. It's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, look, there's just clearly no rhyme or reason for that. And this is what our society has become, though, that standby
Hmm.
watch video.
Hmm.
There's
Yeah, everybody's filming. If they're not filming, they're throwing punches.
I don't know if you remember the Halloween terrorist attack lower Manhattan when the guy in the car killed several, was just recently convicted. There's a guy who gets out and he's trying, instead of helping, he's filming and screaming at everybody else to call 911. He's got the phone in his hand and he's videotaping, because you can see he's videotaping, screaming, somebody call 911, call an ambulance, call an ambulance. Like, people are so much into putting this in your face. We're not, just do the right thing.
Well,
Hmm.
everybody has a phone, Kevin, so he's probably screaming, call 911 while he gathers evidence, because that phone is actually evidence of what occurred, you know. So in a day like today, everybody has a phone. So I don't see that part of it being out of the ordinary if he's trying to capture the evidence of what occurred, you know.
I get your thought on that. I'm more into we need help first. We need an ambulance there. We need some help first. But I got you. It's not a bad way of looking at it. I like your positive thought on it.
Yeah, I mean, if he's the only person now, if he's the only person there, you know, no, help by all means, help out. But and then the thing about helping out, sometimes that backfires. You know, I know a guy who witnessed another guy beating up on a woman. I mean, he's beating her up. He steps in, he grabs the guy. Him and the guy started fighting, so he starts beating the guy up. The girl turns around and jumps on his back and starts hitting him. So he has to turn his attention to her to push her off. Then
Yeah.
the other guy turns back and he hits him in the face. Guy falls down and hits his head and dies.
Rich, it's a very common thing in domestic disputes for the cop to grab the guy, pull him off, and then the girl jumps right on the cop.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. If you're a civilian and you're witnessing something, uh, sometimes people like, I don't want to get in this deep because if I get in, if something like that happens, then I'm the person that the focus is on now.
Yeah. There's always that line of what can I stand by and watch and call 911, and what can I do? I'm going to go out on a limb and say everybody there standing with their phone, nobody was calling help. Yeah.
True statement.
And it sounds more like encouragement. And somebody, like one guy, I don't think he was a part of the original thing, jumped in and just started beating on the autistic kid too. It didn't seem like that other guy was with them at first.
Yeah, well, we live in a day where your video footage gets you likes, and sometimes it adds up to money how many views you get. So people want to videos like stuff like that, so people will watch it. And the next thing you know, you say, "Oh, it's got 1,000,000 hits," and they're looking to cash a check in for that.
You walk into any middle school in this country and ask, what do you want to be when you get older? And it's Insta famous, TikTok famous. It is all of those things. It is not, I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a doctor. I want to be the president. It is, I want to be a fireman, a cop. The number one thing, internet famous.
Yeah, because people are getting a check from it.
Yeah. A few. Dude. It's probably no different than making the NFL, right? To really get paid out of that world.
Yeah, but they see that somebody's getting a check, so they're going to give it a shot. When I was in school, there was a place called Wolf's. It was a like this bar, and it had a big neon sign that said, "If you can drink 100 beers, you don't have to pay for it." Right? So everybody that went there was trying to drink 100 beers, but you had to pay as you go. If your tab made it to that 100, they give you your money back. But nobody's going to drink 100 beers. But the hustle for the bar is to make you think that you could. So you're going to keep spending your money chasing that dream. And this is kind of what some of these kids are doing with this video. You know, they're chasing these likes so they can get a check. And like you said, everybody doesn't get that, but that's not going to stop them from trying.
You know, Stefania brought up a good point. I was just thinking about that actually, about the mob mentality. We see it all the time. You know, if everybody's standing back watching, you know, that's what's going to happen. Everybody's just going to freeze. It'll just take that one person. And Bill and I have been in, you know, a few situations like that where, you know, everyone else just kind of froze. But either he or I or both of us, you know, jumped in. Now, obviously, we're not going to put ourselves in any kind of danger, but you don't want to see somebody hurt or, you know, somebody talking bad. I'm thinking about the lady in the car that day where the guy behind the car behind was just like harassing the hell out of her.
Right.
You know, we're just trying to get dinner, you know, and it's like, cut this shit out. Like you're about to cause an accident. The woman behind us looked like she was about to have some kind of panic attack. And this dude is just harassing the hell out of her. You know, it's crazy, but everybody else is just watching it happen. And it's very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. What else do we have here?
Hey, Bill, you can take the day off, all right?
It's all good, baby. What's up, everybody? This is Real Talk Chronicles. That's Malika Forster. I'm Bill Forster, and we coming to you, baby. Malika is holding it down for me. I see you, Chuck. I see you, Ty.
Hey, guys.
What's up,
Kevin? I
Rich?
feel like I really should be back there. I'm always at that computer, not this one.
I know. Thank you, sweetie, for holding it
You're
down.
welcome.
Definitely. I'm just coming in on the tail end. I'm double dipping you everybody. But what were you talking about?
You know, I've thought about the video you sent me the other day, you know, about the girl dragging the black guy, the autistic kid through the subway, and then she just started swinging on him, and everybody else did too, you know. And like I was telling the guys, I was reading some comments, you know, I'm always looking at the comments on these things, and there were some people that were ready to go up to the school that day. They were like, what school is this? What train stop is it? That's how I know it was Washington Heights. You know, I'm not even from New York, but I got that from the comments. You know, they were ready. They were forming like an alliance, some of the people in the comments, to go up to the school that day. But my thing is, okay, what are you going to do? Like, how are you going to find this girl? You know, legally, you can't go after another kid.
Right?
Was there an arrest made in that situation?
I think I saw that on the headline when Kev posted that.
Stats. Was there an arrest made in it?
I'm looking.
Yeah, one. Only one. One person was arrested. A 16-year-old.
One person was arrested?
Yeah, 16-year-old.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you know.
So if they squeeze that 16-year-old, he'll flip. He ain't got no balls like that. He's gonna flip.
Well, the bottom line is the first person that should definitely get arrested is the female that was holding him.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Her, and then it goes on. Because, you know, like I said, I mean,
she was definitely an antagonist throughout the whole thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, we have to understand what is going on with these youths and all that's happening today. You know, it's really disgusting. I mean, there's such a way we talked about it 3 weeks ago. I mean, in regards to what are some of the problems with the youth today, are we at fault to a certain degree? And, you know, it's just like now they don't have any respect. And like I said, just to do this crime to an autistic kid. And I think it was over. He might have told her to suck his private or whatever the case may be. But whatever it was, you know, she knew what she was doing. And then everybody else pounded on the rabbit. I am so blessed that I don't have a young child like that. Because that's just a cause, a recipe for disaster. You know what I'm trying to say? We weren't brought up in that era. You know, we were brought up, you go to school and fight one-on-one. Your parent or be like, yo, you fight them one-on-one. Win, lose, or draw, you're going to fight. But right now, you got kids that just jumping and assaulting kids for whatever the reasons. And it's just disgusting to me. And I would want to know. My question is, what would be, we piggybacked. Kevin wasn't here, so I'm gonna start with him, and then I'll go Chuck, Ty, and Rich. Kev, what do you think would be some of the solutions, or some of, like I said, some of the solutions of trying to help change the youth of today?
Well, so I've talked about it a ton of times. About, first off, is our school system, right? In our poor neighborhoods, we have our worst public schools, which is completely ass backwards. Our poor neighborhoods should have our best public schools, and we should invest money. You have to invest money in kids. That's really all it comes down to. If you look at, I've been part of working with a whole bunch of groups to do studies on this. Kids who grow up and there's violence in the home. There's problems with maybe mom, dad getting arrested. There's child services in the home. Kids are runaways at times. Their life trajectory is 90% of the time shot. Like they're going on a course for failure where they're going to be little thugs. They're going to be drug addicts. They're going to be everything but a productive member of society. The signs are there at a young age, but we don't spend the money on it. We don't take the time and say, all right, what do we do with little Junior? And little Junior's a pain in the butt at times. But we need to talk to them at a younger age. We need to have the schools in poor neighborhoods need better role models. Schools need to be open longer. Class sizes need to be half the size. We should have our best teachers in there. I'll pay them more. All right. But like I said, it's completely ass backwards, our city. The best schools in New York City, public, are in rich, affluent neighborhoods. And where we need our best public schools, we don't have them. So as government, we have failed these kids from day one. It takes community, and community has changed in our world. Community, we all knew growing up, that meant your neighbors watching out for you, your neighbors telling your mom what you did wrong, and then your mom beating your ass, right? We've lost that. So if that's lost, unfortunately, government has to pick up more. And it starts when they're little. I don't care where you live. If you teach kids and give them a hope and you give them an environment where they can thrive, every kid can thrive. Every kid.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm going to read some comments. Stefani said, I don't think the parents want help or to change the narrative. She also says, because the parents are in the streets as well. Loving God says, the mainstream media has lowered the bar on what is projected as the new normal. The FCC is not penalizing rowdy language and behavior in mainstream media. Very true. Stefania also says, it sounds nice, Uncle Kev, but if the parents aren't on board, then it's going to be much harder, if not possible, to reroute them. I think they took away corporal punishment. I think that was the beginning of the end. Just on, not that you have to beat your child like maybe any of us may have been punished when we were growing up, but there's just a tad bit, like you said, a tad bit of ass whipping will make everything right. Let me go to you, Chuck, then Ty, and then bring in Rich. Go ahead, Chuck. What's your thoughts?
Well, quite honestly, man, I think it's more of a collective when you look at it from a community-based model also, because one, the overall issue in terms of parents not being able to exert any type of discipline, right, in terms of toward their kids, that starts in a home, right? So that dynamic has been taken away from them, and unfortunately, parents are handcuffed based on that. But to Kevin's point in regards to, let's say, for argument's sake, they don't put the best schools directly in, let's say, poor and impoverished neighborhoods. A lot of things that did systemically stop or at least reduce the issues in regards to, let's say, the youth flying off the rails was that within schools, outside of, let's say, the academic aspect of it, there was also a hands-on approach where there were shops, right? They taught them a type of skill or some type of craft, or they had after-school programs where kids were picking up things that they ordinarily wouldn't have gotten in a classroom setting. There also were more community, let's say PAL centers, where when kids got out of school, they had someplace else where they may have learned a trade or a skill, or they got the opportunity to know and to get their socialization skills intact. So even for argument's sake, if the school doesn't have the best education, the after school programs, or as well as, let's say, the shop classes, or the skill based classes that they had, gave a child who, let's say, may not have been that good in math or arithmetic, but it gave them something else to concentrate and to focus on. They found at some point, hey, I'm a good photographer. I'm good with my hands. I'm interested in electricity. I'm interested in refrigeration. And it was skill based. So even if in fact the child wasn't really good in academia, then at least he was able to use his hands. And when you put a child's mind or their hands to work, it keeps them out of fucking trouble. It gives them something else to focus on, other than looking at the arbitrary issues between the dislikes, the likes, the nuances between two kids that, oh, well, you have better sneakers than I do, so I don't like you because of that. Or you have a better jacket on, and so I don't like you. Or you because you're black. No, if I'm focused on something else and I'm using my mind, I'm using my hands, it doesn't give me the time or the space to concentrate on other aspects where most of these kids get into. So I think that it has been a duality of things that have occurred, not just in terms of, let's say, legislatively handcuffing parents and not being able to discipline their kids, but when you look at it from the academic side, a lot, when now they make cuts, where do they make the cuts? They make the cuts in these programs that have benefited black kids, right? I mean, what school do you know now, other than being a specialized school that you can walk into and it has a myriad of different facets that a child can experience? It's either you learn arithmetic or math or social studies, maybe one elective. But for the most part, they're just going to school just to learn and just to put their head in a book, but they're not, the application of life isn't being provided them in something outside of a classroom setting.
Oh, very good point. Ty?
Yeah, I could basically say the same thing. It is a collective effort. Not efforts, collectively, a number of characteristics that contribute to the youth carrying themselves the way they do. And like Chuck and like Kevin said, definitely being able to discipline the child, but not so much just the discipline, but if there's no consequences other than going to jail, where some of the street kids find comfortability because that's where their friends are, then what else is there, you know? And then to top it off, the curriculum drastically needs to change. I mean, you don't, first of all, when it comes to the history part and teaching a lie where it puts one race above another based on the lie, it doesn't give the one that is not getting the boost any real self-esteem. So they're starting off life in a different aspect, and then you're giving the other one a different sense of knowledge and self-esteem that they're better than everyone else, and that curriculum has to change. They have to start teaching the truth, and if they don't, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And lastly, yes, in regards to different community programs that are out there, a lot of times the kids don't have the resources that they need to distract them. Just like Chuck said, in the school. I could tell you now, even the Roughnecks, when I was in school, went to shop class. They could cut everything else, but they went to shop class because they knew it was something, it was a platform for them to get a job in Uncle Joe's mechanic shop or whatever have it, or go do electrical or wood or carpentry with their, whoever they could. So yeah, it's a collective sort of things that have led to this.
Yeah, that's what's up. I'm gonna ask Rich. I'm coming to you, and then I'll ask you, do you want to answer that question too? No, okay, go ahead, Rich.
Well, you know, this is the thing. I've worked with kids my whole life. My whole career is working with kids from every age group, even on up to adults. And I say adults because you can reach to be statistically an adult, but your mind is the mind of a child, right? Now, there is chaos. There is money in chaos. You know, all of these things that are going on leads these kids where? To prison. Chuck mentioned the school system not being equal as far as public schools. You have public schools in communities that are affluent, but what they do with those public schools is they turn them into like what they do with these parks, like Central Park. They turn them into a conservatory. The people that live in the neighborhood that make money flood money into the public school system so much it looks like a private school. And because you don't live in that district, you can't go there, right? So the community is supporting the school financially in all other kind of ways, you know, with all kinds of enrichments, you know. And it really boils back to the family, because you have to understand that that kid that goes to the school and spends that time in the school, they might come in contact with a good teacher or a good guidance counselor or what have you. But then they got to go back home to a setting that put them in that position that they're in, where they can't really function. They don't have a family that they can experience real love from. And it's a bunch of distrust. Because if I can't trust my mother and my father, how am I going to trust you, somebody I don't know? You know? And that trust has to be built. Any relationship that you have with a child that's not yours has to be built. And it's going to be tested, because that child is going to do things that you're not going to like. And it's really revolving around testing you, because you're saying, oh, I care. Oh, I love you. And they say, okay, you love me now? I just went in the drawer and stole your wallet. Or I just did X, Y, and Z. Do you still love me? You know? And every kid that comes to my school, you know, there's a backstory with them, you know, that you have no idea occurred. You know, there is so many horror stories that you can't even imagine that kids go through. And then I just want to touch on a couple more things. And one of them is when I was a kid, public assistance was in effect. You know, that's when if you had food stamps, they were actually stamps. They were like paper money and even coins. And nobody was proud to be on public assistance. You were like embarrassed, but if your family needed the help, that's what it was in place for. And it evolved to a situation now where, you know, instead of you working to get off of welfare, you got parents that when their kids reach a certain age, they walk them through the system so they can get their own case, so they can get off of theirs. You know, my mother worked as a caseworker for HRA. And she went from being on public assistance, going to school, and became a caseworker. And she watched how that whole system evolved into what it is now. Churches. If you go back in the day, every church had either a basketball team or a football team or even both, right? I've been to meetings with the clergy and talking about this very topic. What are we going to do with our youth? And the first thing I asked them is, I said, do you guys have any sports teams going on? They said, oh, no, we don't have that. We don't have a youth person, somebody young enough that wants to get involved or whatever. You know, that's something that's missing. And then all of these different protests that took place through the George Floyd and all of the different incidents that occurred, and these protests arise, none of these protests, for the most part, were instigated by a church or orchestrated by a church. Back in the day, Martin Luther King and all these guys, these were all clergy people. So you got people now that are organizing and doing things that sometimes are just straight up disruptive. That's really not going to solve anything except for a bunch of violence, you know. But people are taking a back seat instead of stepping in front of this madness. And I'm talking about people that sit around and talk about it instead of be about it. You know, we got to start doing things, go back to being the person that organizes something in your community. I mean, when I was a kid, it wasn't the PAL or these different big name organizations. It was my neighbor who lived next door, who was skilled in martial arts, that started a martial arts school. And then there was the woman over here who started the African dance. And then there was this other neighbor that was into art. And then there was another neighbor that was into music. He played instruments. And they taught kids how to do that. And they used their own resources to do it. And that falls into loving your community. You can't live someplace and not reach out to the people that are right next door to you. How do you live someplace for 20 years and don't even know the family that's opening their door and walking past you, getting on the elevator with you? How do you do that? But it's happening. So we gotta find a way to take a vested interest in what's going on. We can point to the problem all day, but unless we get off our asses, and we're not going to be able to save everybody. No, that is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying to you is, if you could save one, that one might grow up to save many. So it's really about, what are we willing to do as individuals to put a dent in this shit?
That's true, Rich. You have me thinking. I'm going back now to when I was in college, and there was a program, I cannot remember the name of it, but it basically connected or matched college students with local students, elementary school students, high school students, and we were their mentors. Now, we only met with them, maybe once or twice a week for just a limited time. But I have to tell you, me coming from, a rough neighborhood, and I was paired with this young lady, and I saw myself in her. She was very shy. She did her best to, dress as appropriately and nice as she could, but I could tell she didn't, come from much, right? She may have had a good family, but financially just didn't have much. And I have to tell you, I made a commitment to myself, despite what homework or tests or, just little things back then that were big, right? That were extremely important. But I made sure I managed my time well enough so that when I did meet with this young lady, my attention was fully there. I wanted her to know that, I'm not just here because somebody told me I have to be here. It was important for me to convey to her that I really was interested in how she was doing. What's going on in your life? What do you want to talk about? And I don't know. I didn't want her to feel like it was a charity case. And, I always think about her and wish I could, connect with her. Of course I can't now, but I really wish there was some way I could follow up and find out how her life is going now. And I would love to hear her perspective on, what those moments were like for her. But, when you talk about giving back, it just takes just a little bit of time. And it could be a bit of an inconvenience for some, right? Because we're all used to doing our daily things, but we never know how much of an impact we could potentially make on someone's life by just sharing a little bit of time of our own. And the more people who do that, I think it will make a big difference for sure.
Comment, questions?
Yes, sir. So we have some questions, some comments. Good thing I got my good glasses on. So Loving God says, what would each panelist suggest to change the divide in their respective environments? We were kind of talking about that a little bit.
So if I'll start with you, Rich. Go give 1 minute answer on that. I know it might be longer, but just like we said, Malika said we already chopped that up. But just hit that, Rich, Ty, Kev, Chuck, and so we can go on to another question, like a 1 minute answer on that.
I thought that's what I did. I think I thought.
Okay, so then we can keep it moving.
We all answered that. Yeah.
Keep it moving.
I might have put some people to sleep, but
No, you didn't.
Ramona said, yes, the youth need gyms, centers, back to old school. What's up, Roscoe?
And Christina also mentioned churches and choir clubs. I was on a choir, Chris. I don't know how they let me on the choir, but I was on there. Hey, but it kept me busy, though. It kept me busy. Ramona also mentioned loving your community and your neighbors. Absolutely.
Brother Eddie's in the building.
Eddie Vieira, hello. He said, I've been a blue-collar worker as a carpenter in New York City construction industry for 19 years, and there aren't enough workers. An article says the U.S. would be short 1 million blue-collar workers. And then he said, one reason is there are no shop classes anywhere. 99% of the U.S. removed them. Not all kids want to work in the office. That's so true. He says, I'm not sure, class was fun, especially for boys, and led to careers later. Eddie, I took shop, and I will never forget because I almost chopped my finger off. I don't know if I told you that story, Bill.
I'd have had a wife with 9 fingers.
You would have, but just the tip, just the tip would have been missing.
I know she wouldn't have pointed at me though. She'd have been like that. Yeah, like what? She'd have been like, yeah, what you gonna do? I'd be like, yeah, all right.
I will never forget that, but I'm a tomboy kind of, sort of, so I love shop class. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they need to bring it back.
Kendra, what she said?
Oh, cousin Kendra, she said, you're right, Malika. I worked briefly at a safe house for trafficked youth, and it was jaw-dropping how for small acts of true caring or attention by the staff went, especially when we did things then off hours. Absolutely. You never know.
Stefania said, yes, I read that as well, Eddie. Mm-hmm. Loving God, can each panelist recite one verse in the Bible? I can't, and I went to Catholic school.
I can't either.
I don't know if Chuck or Ty can or Rich can. Kevin, you can't, right? Unless they up
that
in the
was the top of my head.
You get them up there. But that's a nice question. But what made you ask that question, Loving God? And I just want to ask the panelists this question: what do you think about going back? Do you think taking away, punishing our children has caused a lot of problems? I'll start with you, Ty, Chuck, Kevin, and Rich.
Yeah, it definitely has. But, I have a saying that, anything to the extreme becomes error. And mm-hmm. The problem was that a lot of parents were getting carried away and putting kids in the hospital and killing them. And I understood why they took it away, but the key to life is balance. You got to have balance when it comes to anything, and the balance should be that it's hard to tell a human being to have self-control, but parents lose it, and they've lost it, and we've lost kids behind it. So that's basically why they took it away.
Yeah, man. What's so funny? It's crazy. I was trying to get some my people from ACS on, and I'm going to go to Rich, Kev, and then Chuck because I went the other way around, and Rich was last, so I want Rich to go second. Listen. If people were, I'm going to get them on. They might have to go incognito, ghosting because of their careers, but they're willing to come on and talk about what's happening in the ACS forum because it's a real problem with the youth, and I wanted to address this. And I wanted to give Kevin, once Kevin said he was coming back, tonight, I wanted him to talk about it. But I feel that, yeah, the way the way I was, I can only speak for me. I don't know how any of you will recommend it. But trust me, once I got that one official A whipping, I didn't want any more of that, man. So I stopped what I was doing. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, Rich. What's your thoughts, brother?
Well, historically, I mean, we as I'm going to speak for people of color. We didn't have time for error, so we had to be taught real quick the do's and the don'ts, right? So when we make a mistake as people of color going out in the street in this society that I grew up in, depending on who you were going to be confronted by, could cost you your life. And it's still like that to this day. I mean, just imagine, and I'm just going to go there with this. When slaves were captured and brought to this country, they didn't speak the language. So how did they know what to do? How did they know what this guy was telling them to do? It came from beating them. If they wanted you to do something, they would point to it, hit you if you didn't do it. So we were entrenched with that form of discipline of being beat into submission to do or not to do, right? So as we get speed up into today, that was kind of a form of it, that we grew up with. And you see, my children, I never beat my children. But I got my butt beat. And I said I wasn't going to do that to my kids. Because sometimes I got beat for nothing. And sometimes it was getting beat out of frustration. Like Chuck said, that it went from discipline to abuse. But we can easily say spare the rod, that's shit. But
Rich, I agree with you. I agree with you. I think
for me was not letting my parent down, not letting my mother down. That affected me more than a beating. The love that she had for me, I didn't want to let her down. So
well, I can personally say,
love,
okay.
There's a saying that my cousin tells me when somebody's acting like crazy. He said, you got to love the hell out of them.
Yeah. You see Cam bringing Will Ferrell.
Yeah, I see him.
But the one thing whatever gets you over the hump, I didn't want to feel what I felt. So it didn't have no point about disappointing my parents. I just said, I ain't want that smoke. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, Kev. What's your thoughts?
It doesn't have to necessarily, and Richard's just saying, you don't have to beat your kid, but there's got to be consequences. There has to be consequences.
Like Ramona said, hold on, Kev. Like Ramona said, take the cell phone and sneakers away. I have people talking about they take the internet away from the child.
Yep.
Oh,
and they'll cry and they'll scream and they'll be it's hurtful to them. So what?
Yeah.
There's there's whatever. There's sorry, text just came in. I got caught on something. You have to be able to punish them. You have to be able. My kids know if I say, if you do this, X will happen. There's a line in the sand. 100% it happens. There's no bluffing. But I don't have to beat them. When they're young, you give them time out. You send them to the room. When they're a little bit older, you take away their devices. You take away their privilege to go out.
But is that working, Kevin? Honestly, because I think that's what's been happening.
You got to have consequences.
And then Christina made a good point. She said there also has to be consistency. You can't just do it once and never do it again. Come here.
I consistently got beat, and I consistently was on punishment.
Me too. Me too. Don't let people talk that only child sugar. Listen, I average one a month. I guess I'm Yeah, I guess I'm honestly labeled a hard head because I average it once a month. Go ahead. Chuck, go ahead. I think they asked me.
Chuck?
Yeah, I think he froze.
Yeah.
Hey,
Oh,
hey,
it's my
hey,
turn. Oh,
Mr.
I'm sorry. No, no, no. What? I mean, I'm sorry. Were you gonna say something, Rich?
No, I was just going to say that you have to spend time to punish somebody. If you're gonna impose a curfew or take something, that means you got to be there to watch it. And a lot of times, parents, they want to go on about their business, right? So they rather just beat your ass and say, okay, well that's it, than have to be the warden, so to speak. Because if they tell you can't go out, that means they got to be there to make sure you don't go. If they don't plan on putting their hands on you, if they're going to take your stuff, they got to make sure you don't get it back. So that means they got to spend the time policing that action they just put on you. And a lot of parents just don't want to put that time in. They want to just threaten you to death and say, well, I'll kick your ass if you touch that, or I'll kick your ass if you go out. Where it's just, that's all it's about. I'm going to kick your ass.
Well, what we also have to understand is outside of I mean, everyone's points have been very valid, and they all can have a great impact on trying to change the dynamic associated with kids. But you have when you have babies having babies, then that's a problem, right? I mean, that's one thing. You have young kids that are having children. So now you have this young lady or who's trying to raise a baby. Now that baby's almost what when the kid gets to a particular age, they're kind of either close in age or not too far from age, whatever the case may be, and then that's a problem. And then you have parents who are trying to be more like their kids. They're trying to be more like their buddy, their friends. And I'm not saying that you can't be a friend to your child, but you also have to ensure and make it very clear that you are the parent. Sometimes I see some parents, and when they're walking down the street, I can't tell the difference between the mother or the daughter. I can't tell. I don't know who it is. Or sometimes you get mothers or you get fathers who are behaving in ways like their kids are. And that to me is confusing as well. So now if you're behaving and acting in a way where you're not being someone that's they're supposed to look to as an example, and you're kind of pretty much trying to just blend in and fit in with them so that they can at least respect you, then when you do put the hammer on them, they look at you like you're crazy. Like, let me get this right. So one minute we all hanging out and we talking, and now you want to be my father? So it there has to be a clear and delineating component that says very clearly, I'm the parent and this is the child. And due to the fact that there's not this, or I would call it a godly fear, right? My godly fear was two things when it came to my parents. One, not doing something that was going to disappoint them. And two, not getting two ass whippings in the same night. Because once my mom got a hold of my ass, she would say, no, 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 no. Or you ain't getting nothing. Wait till your dad gets home. And I was like, damn. So that also was another issue. And like Bill said, once I got disciplined the first couple of times, I made sure I didn't repeat that behavior. And there were certain times because of the way I got whipped, my sisters, believe me, they were angels because we ain't doing that shit because that got him beat like that. We don't want none of that. So we're not going
How,
to repeat that. So they didn't even
how
step
many
out of line.
siblings you
So
got, Chuck?
it's I don't know. I have one younger brother and three younger sisters.
You're the oldest?
So in terms of Yeah. So in terms of the example of what not to do, yeah, that was me. So I was always, my mom said go left, I went right, boom. And I said, okay, I'm not doing that again. But based on my era, they made it their business not to go in that direction, not to do that, not to repeat any of that behavior because they didn't want to get what I got. So, but once
Hey,
again,
Chuck, can I
I
ask you a
said
question?
discipline, yes, but it can't be excessive. It can't be abusive. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean,
Yeah, go ahead.
if you want to share it, how old was your mom when she had you?
My mom was 21.
My mom was 19 when she had me. But what I remember about a kid and some of the young girls around me that got pregnant, when young girls got pregnant, like when in high school, they got sent down south. And if you were down south, you got sent up
Right.
north. But you got sent
Mm-hmm.
to a family that supported and helped you raise your child. So back in the day, you had kids having kids, but the support there was with the family, because you had grandma, you had aunt, uncle, and so on, that rallied around the family. Because I got tons of
Well, that's
cousins,
what leads to my
and we
point. You're right. That's what
recognize
leads to
each
my
other.
point.
We don't even call each other cousins. We call each other's brothers and sisters, because that's how close we were. Because their mother was my mother was their mother, and so on. But that family unit is so important when it comes to raising children. Like when they say a village raises a children, that village starts with your immediate family, and then it stretches out to the community.
Mhm.
And when that's not present, that's when all hell breaks loose.
Kev, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, tell us how white families raise their kids, Kevin.
Dang, Kevin. You know, you were doing so good.
Oh, I knew it was coming. I've seen some of the other episodes. You were off the rails, Rich. So I was waiting. I was just waiting for it,
It's the
man.
green
Kevin's
room.
my
Forget
man.
about
I
the
can't
green
leave him
room.
out.
Like,
Oh, Rich.
Quiet
Oh
like
my
this.
God.
What are we going to do with you, Rich? Exactly,
like-
Kevin.
Damn, Kev, how many
Freaking
flags
Rich,
you got,
man.
man?
I could just speak for myself and how I raise my kids, my friend. Like I told you, I have dinner every night with my kids. We sit down to dinner, and that's been instilled from day one. I do things with my kids, but I am firm and fair, right? I believe in the 3 F's: firm, fair, and fun. I'll play with them. I'll go hiking. I'll play games, but there are rules. Homework has to be done. Things need to be cleaned up. You fighting with your sibling, there's going to be a punishment.
Do you beat the kids, Kevin?
Do I beat my kids? No. Have I ever slapped one of my kids? Yeah, I've slapped one.
That's not a beating.
No.
Hey, you know what's so funny? I'm gonna let Malika read some comments and questions, but next week I want to go into this. And Kevin, I hope you could be here, but I don't know if you can. I definitely want to talk about what's happening is too much right now, and also like this woke world. Like I think I had a conversation with somebody talking about drag queens reading books in school now. I feel like they're kind of shoving, too much down our children's throats. And we could talk about a lot of that stuff. So I think that's a pertinent. I'm trying to see if I can get some other people to join in on this conversation, because we're coming from a man's perspective. I know, Kev, you divulge certain things in your personal life. So I would love if you could be here for that, because I just think right now things are getting too out of hand. We got children changing their sexual preferences at such a young age. You have, what is it? The binary. What's the proper terminology of it?
Non-binary.
Yeah. Exactly. So I just think
Non-binary.
Expert on it.
Yeah, no, I bet
Non-binary.
So I just want to be able to talk about that. We're going to read some comments. So I definitely will talk about that if available next Wednesday. We're going to go down that road.
Yeah, quite a number of topics coming up for next week. One thing Stefania wanted to talk about was the collapse of the bank. So that's definitely going to
so we'll touch that too. Sure. Definitely, yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. I need to cut off.
I'm sorry, Kev.
I apologize, but I need to cut off.
Go ahead, Kev.
We're right behind you.
Yeah, we're all getting out of here. So go ahead, Kev. We'll tell you about the topics. Go ahead.
All right. I appreciate you all. Have a good night.
Kev, go beat your kids. Go beat your kids, Kev.
Coming to you, Rich.
Peace and blessings, Kev. Good to see you, brother.
to.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Go beat your
I'm
kids.
gonna read Paula's comment really quick. She
The
says
rich
she
man.
picked her son because he always challenges her in school, in the streets, and in my household. Once I went to college, things changed, and so did means of discipline. But to this day, he throws that in my face, and I tell him all the time, "You still talking about this?
Beat his ass again. Let me say.
She said, "You're going to be 25 years old. Go to therapy." But there's no time limit to trauma and how it affects someone. I've apologized, tried to make it up to him, and nothing worked. I stopped telling him to let it go.
Hold on, yo, Paula, you just mad because you got good hands.
Oh,
You nice
shit.
with your hands. Yo, go ahead, read some more, and then let Ty go, because give him some positive affirmation. Because
Hey, what the hell is Ty doing? Ty,
He on the plane.
Transport the
plane.
Yeah, that is a plane.
I'm on my way to come find you, Rich. 'Cause after all the back and forth, I'm just gonna hand it to you, bro. That's all.
Oh my God.
Be careful what you wish for.
You better ask somebody. I'm not.
Yo,
I don't have to ask nobody.
I love you guys.
Yo, we're gonna read these comments, and then Ty give us some positive affirmation, and we can get out of here. That's hilarious. Hold on, Ty.
My word. What's
I
up,
knew
Mark?
something had to be going on. This dude wasn't talking.
Hold on. Let her get these comments in.
So Christina said that's not what that is. She said it's a fun program where they come in and read to the children. It has nothing to do with sexual preference.
Chris, it has to be a sexual preference, because the bottom line is that they're dressed up as drag queens. So I don't know. We're going to talk about it. Maybe, Christine, you can come in next week and give us some more insight. But the bottom line is, I know they're not letting Black Panthers, they're not letting KKK people come in schools and their garb and speak. So people would be in an outrage. So I'll just talk about that. But, it is what it is. Let me tell you something. My child come home and ask me, "Daddy, why that man look so strong and tough? I mean, that female looks so muscular. What am I supposed to say?" And you sitting there reading nursery rhymes? Let's talk about it next week. Go ahead, baby. Give it to him.
Everyone else is just laughing at Rich. They said Ty is on his way to get rich. He's on the plane.
Yeah. Ty, give us some positive affirmation, baby. Rich.
Listen. I know Bill and I had to deal with a situation recently with a young man in the school who he caught us off guard with his categorization of where he's at right now in life, and I think that's a very good topic for next week. But moving forward, we can't give up on the kids. We have to somehow find a way to just be there for them. And the main thing is that what society has done, where a lot of the fathers haven't been there, and they've been, put away before they even had a chance to really be a good father to the kid. I'm not saying because of what their lifestyle was that it wouldn't have they wouldn't have turned out to be a good father. Just unfortunate circumstances based on what society has done. So moving forward, yes, we all need to take a part in trying to uplift the kids somehow, somewhere.
And I just want to say, fellas, Rich and Chuck, I just want to say, I want to be like Ty when I grow up. He living in first class. You see all them people walking by, ass butting them upside his head and shit like that. You know what I'm saying?
It's comfort. It's comfort.
Yo, he ain't in the back row because everybody walking past him.
That motherfucker sitting next to the bathroom. That's what it is.
All right, I'll be there.
Hold on. I'll
take care, man.
Yo,
Hey,
Ty,
you live right next to the bathroom, ain't you?
Safe travels, Ty.
Safe travel. I know that's my guy. I know he ride first class all the time. Go ahead. Hold on, Chuck.
All right. So last one. I was only supposed to be here for like 5 minutes.
Hey,
So
you just got stuck in that chair.
From Willie Cooper.
Willie Worm.
He said that's where the responsibility comes into play by the parents. There have to be a certain structure Today's structure has changed from yesterday's. And like the gentleman said, there are kids raising kids. Grandparents are no longer filling in. And then he said, which was a big deal, even some grandparents living that young lifestyle. Some parents want their kids to be a student like they were. Yeah. It's hey Brian. Yeah, it's very interesting, and things are a lot different than what they were back then. It has been a true pleasure.
Chuck got to give his affirmation, and Rich got to give the affirmation.
Okay, well, you know,
what are you doing?
I got places to go, people to see.
Oh no, brother, no. All I have to say, yeah, you know, you guys know. Go ahead and eat. I just want to say thank you once again for the opportunity. Once again, like I said, you know, in terms of kids, it takes a village to raise a child, and hopefully next week we can go more in depth into some other aspects of it. But you know, Rich, you off the freaking hook as always. So it's always a pleasure being on the show with you. Yeah. So peace and blessings to everybody, man. Have a good evening.
Love you, Chuck. I said,
Rich.
All right,
Rich,
man.
Rich, leave you the best for last, baby.
I'm gonna get you a T-shirt called the Protagonist. It's gonna be twofold: antagonist and protagonist.
Hey,
exactly.
So you can switch back and forward.
I say what the public want to say. They're not on the show to say it, so I get a chance to say it for them.
Yeah. Rich is the voice of the people. Yeah.
Yes, you do, brother.
Everybody,
yes, you do.
You know, all you guys are former, you know, law enforcement. I'm the only one that's not. So, you know,
I love it. But you know what's so funny next week?
Without getting handcuffs on me.
Yeah. But you know what's so funny next week too, Chuck, and yeah, he's hilarious. I know he's hilarious. You know, next week I want to talk about what's going on. Are we being too woke? I also want to discuss the culture of law enforcement. I know Stefania had something that she wanted to talk about the banks. We could talk about that. But the thing is also about the culture. What was it where Tyrese Nichols got killed? They talked about the culture and how many people of color, I think it was there and someplace else, have gotten pulled over. People of color, the stats are so disrespectful and things like that. We have to, let's talk about that culture. Chuck, you and I definitely, and Rich, you can talk about it from a civilian aspect. But you know, we want to address that. Maybe we might have to go 2 hours strong next week if we can, if time permits and we're all comfortable. But you know, there's so much, and we're definitely going to do that. Just reading the comments. I took my glasses off. Rich, you about to give us Sonia said thank you for another awesome segment. Thank you. Sonia, how's it going? Rochelle says sorry, got in late. It's all good. What's up, Barry? You're my brother. Harlem in the building. Christina said thank you. This was a good conversation. Absolutely. Christina, if you're available next week, I definitely if you can come in for about 10 minutes. We want to talk about that, what's going on in the school system. You know what I'm saying? If you got to go like that Geico commercial and hide so people won't know your profession, it's all good. Stefani said thanks for a great segment show, guys. What else? I can't see my glasses.
And Loving God said God is always right.
All right. Yo, Rich, give us some positive affirmation, and then Malika and I are going to close it out. Go ahead, baby. Oh, wait.
Hey, listen.
Paula said, Bill, can you read that? Hold on, Rich. Paula said, Bill, he actually, she's referring to her son. Yeah. He actually says that's why he knows how to fight when he got beat. He went to school and beat a kid. He sometimes thanks me for the way I raised him, but he just can't let go of those ass whoopings. He's never went to jail, and I harassed him about the job he has to this day. I heard a commentary on the kids/men who shoot up all the schools. To sum it up, they are fatherless. Yeah, you know what, Paula, he gonna have to deal with that. Tell him, like you said, tell him to go get a therapist, because the bottom line is, tell him, listen, that's why he got a knuckle game, because of you. You know. Mm-hmm. Yep. Go ahead, Rich. Give us something before we get out of here.
Well, listen, we both woke up with the two. Well, we all woke up with the 2 C's. That first C was the chance, and now we have a choice to make a change in life. So let's talk about it and make it happen. All right, yo, everybody. That's Richard Williams. That's Chuck Richards. Of course, you know we had Row House this weekend, 3rd Saturday of the month. Phenomenal.
awesome event. Thank you, Bill. Pat my own self on the back. My man, Assorted Flavors, and my wife. We do what we do. Chuck, tell them how it is in the summertime, baby. I can't wait till the hot weather. We're gonna do it up. Shout out to Mark.
It's freaking sick.
We gotta get Richard to stay there more than 5 minutes.
I know. What's up with that, Rich?
Richard Peekaboo. He come in, he out. He Kaze Soze on that. You know?
Yo, man, I got some haters out there. I got some haters out there, man.
Yeah, you did. You told me the story. I was laughing. Also, shout out to the sponsors. Soft Illusions Art Gallery, Deli Arts and Survival Magazine, #1 magazine in the country.
Chocolat.
Also Chocolat. Also Design Interactions. Yeah,
got a lot going on.
Malik got a lot going on.
Yeah.
Hey, what time does that Roadhouse thing start?
1 to 8.
You know, I gotta come early. That's what I gotta do.
Yeah, that's what you do, Rich. Come at 12:30 instead of 1:02. Because I know you don't want that crowd. Just don't want that crowd at all. Just come and get us better. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And Reggie was party speakers. Everybody's Real Talk Chronicles. That's Chuck Richards. That's Richard Williams. We had Kevin Branzetti. We had Ty Butler. And Norm Davis said he's apologizing. He wasn't able. He's taking care of some personal stuff. And that's Malika Foster. Thank you for holding it down, sweetie.
You're welcome.
Hey, Chuck,
everybody do the shit up. Huh?
Are you coming Saturday, Chuck?
Yeah, I'll be in the house Saturday. Yeah, I'm gonna come through.
Oh, okay. That's what's up.
Yeah, you want some tape delay shit? Where you on the East Coast, the West Coast?
Yeah, I'm gonna come through.
You in Cali?
Hey, everybody, the behind the scenes shit is hilarious. We're not gonna take you in the green room, but the green room is hilarious. If you ever hear us in the green room. Good night, everybody. Real talk.
Bring Kev.
Oh, we're gonna get Kev.
Good night, everybody. Peace and blessings. All right now.
Talk to you later.